Welcome to Ask the Security Guy. I am Holly Magnuson, and I am here once again with Shawn Kohrman. Good morning, Shawn.
Good morning. How are you today?
Other than some last-minute weird technical difficulties, I'm doing okay.
Well, we work in technology, so it makes sense that we would have problems with it.
Oh, it definitely does. And this morning, like I said, I took the third machine finally worked, so I'm excited. Today, we're talking about mobile payment types. And as a reminder for those of you who are watching, if you have a question, to the right of the video feed, you'll see a live chat box and place where you can say something. And would love it if you would just out there and say hi. I turn this now over to Shawn to start talking about mobile payment devices.
So, well, and we talk about this every November. It's a shopping time of year, right? Getting ready for Christmas, and if you're ahead of the curve, unlike me, you may already be shopping or have been shopping. If not, there's always December. But in the meantime, one of the questions that comes up every year is, what are safe ways to shop? And, is this payment app safe or is that store safe? And this year's a little different. Over the course of the last year, since the Target breach and the Home Depot breach, that happened in their respective years, we saw pretty significant changes in how payment processing happened within the brick and mortar stores and online and on mobile. So I had a colleague ask me just recently, well, is it safer to go in the store? Well, the answer to that used to be yes. It used to be, if you go into the store and you do your work there, you're safer than you are buying online. Well, these days, the stores use the same or similar technology in the store to process your payment as they do online. The back end, the stuff you don't see, the stuff you don't interact with, is really the same in a lot of cases. So from a risk standpoint, your risks going in the store or buying it online are pretty similar these days. And then there's the other question about the mobile payment apps. So, there's Apple Pay, there's Google Wallet, there's Android Pay, there's PayPal. We've got Intuit Go Payment, Pay with Square, Verifone Sale, Level Up, Venmo, Snapchat, Facebook Messenger, Square, and the list just keeps going.
It's crazy how many there are now.
There's 1,000,001 ways to send money, spend money, and do what you need to do. So some of the more popular ones out there are Apple Pay and Google Wallet and Venmo. And then on the up-and-comer side, as new or novel or interesting ways to send money, you've got Facebook Messenger, which is allowing payments to allowing you to send money. You also have Snapchat, which has a mechanism for doing the same thing. And the question is, coming back to us saying, well, are they safe or are they secure? So what I wanted to do, I did my research on all of these, and they're all coming up pretty much the same in terms of what their overall security is, how they handle breach, what the requirements are that they are required to adhere to for processing payments. And so I wanted to break that down into just common terms. Anybody that is a payment processor, meaning they send you money or they help you receive money, they hit your bank account, that kind of thing. At some point or other, they are required to be in compliance with the PCI data security standards. So what PCI stands for is Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. And it was developed by the 4 major credit card companies. And it is a set of security requirements that merchants must adhere to process credit cards. Well, so that was originally credit cards. Now, with our banks, we have these debit cards, right? So Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Bank of the West, pick your bank. They all have a card that you get, and you can use it as a payment card, or you can use it as an ATM to go get cash. Well, you can also link it to one of these mobile apps, or one of these mobile apps, you can give straight access to your checking account or your savings account or some other account. So the question then becomes, okay, how secure are they, because they're storing my data? And they're storing really sensitive data because they've got access to my accounts in order to be able to send money with my authorization. Well, the payment card industry data security standards are based off of an international set of standards that are constantly being updated. And they're the similar standards to what are being used by the feds and being, as requirements for all institutions that handle certain types of funds to be in compliance with. To make a long story short, the security standards that PCI requires are extremely good, and they're very strongly audited. Meaning, if any one of these companies has an incident, has a breach, loses your data, they fall under a whole different level of compliance requirements and auditing. So in a lot of ways, because of the requirements that these companies have, they are inherently more secure than you are. Bottom line, the requirements that they have to have in place to deal with, store, process your data means that their security practices have to be top shelf every time, all the time. And if they're not, they have serious risk to their ability to do business at all. So what does it mean? I mean, if I'm sitting here saying that, these companies there's a good likelihood that they're secure, where's the insecurity come from, and why am I nervous about it? So security is a two-part deal, right? On one hand, I rely on these companies who store my data, who have access to my accounts and those kinds of things, to maintain the highest levels of security possible. Because it's my stuff, it's my money, it's my livelihood, it's how I pay the rent. The other part of that equation is my responsibility. Okay, am I using good usernames and passwords? Am I using a unique password for every site? Am I using a password manager that has a strong passphrase protecting it? If I'm making payments from my phone using NFC or Apple Pay or Google Wallet or Android Pay or any one of these apps, am I using good practices when I set up my account with them? Is my personal email account using a unique password that's strong and not used anywhere else? Because that's, that personal email account is usually what is required to set up an account with any one of these. But it can also be used for password recovery. Do I have multi-factor authentication set up? Most of these services have the ability to support multi-factor authentication. Meaning, for certain types of actions that you do, maybe it's sending a payment, or maybe it's resetting your password, they require another form of authentication. Meaning, so the most common one right now is they'll send you a text message to your phone with a code. It's a one-time code. And then on the website that you're looking at, they're going to ask you to put in that code to verify that it's you. Is this perfect? No. Is it better than what we've had in the past? Absolutely. So if you look at your credit card, if you look at your bank, if even some utility companies are providing the service now. When you log in, if you pay them online, or even just to manage your account, some will require you to do it every time you log in. I had my identity stolen over a year ago, and I set up extra layers of security with my bank. So every time I sign in, I'm required to enter that unique one-time code. Those are things I like, and those are things that are important. So when we talk about the security of mobile payment apps, or even buying things online on a website, part of the equation really falls to us for our responsibility. If you're looking at an app, if you're looking at a website or some type of service that's offering to handle payments, one of the fastest things you can look for in their help section is to search for, are they PCI compliant? And most will have some kind of article talking about their PCI compliance status. And there are more complicated ways that you can get into verifying that. But generally speaking, that's all you have to search for if you're interested in digging into that. But more importantly, on your side of the house is where you need to pay attention, because these are the practices that are important to keep you protected. They will do their best to protect your data because it's in their best interest as a business to do so. It is in your best interest to protect your data as well and use the tools and the techniques that we've talked about. And then another practice that you can think about doing, if you're going to use one of these payment apps, maybe Venmo or any of the other ones, think about what account are you linking it to? Are you linking it to your primary account that your paycheck goes into and all of your funds go into? And then flip your thinking. What happens if somebody got into that account? How bad off would you be? How would it affect you and your family? So one thing to think about then is, instead of linking these up to your primary account, link them up to a secondary account that you put money in deliberately for a purpose. Or a low limit credit card. Associate, one of these with a low limit credit card. And then just pay it off as you go. Those are safer ways, and then think about what actually has access to my primary bank account and how. So everything that we do financially and everything that we do with technology has risk associated with it. And a lot of what we talk about here on Ask the Security Guy is really, at the root of it, risk management. Here's the risk, and here are the tools and techniques we're going to show you to how to mitigate those risks, how to make them smaller or more manageable. So as we go into the shopping season, I hope this helps. One of the things that, like I said, only part of the responsibility lies on these companies. The other part is on us.
Yeah, I mean, like we've talked about, at the end of the day, we have to be looking at our bank account and our credit card receipts and all of that.
Exactly. Are you monitoring your bank statements? Are you monitoring your credit score? Have you put a freeze on your credit score? I mean, with the mega breaches that we've had with Experian and the IRS and those kinds of things, that's hardcore P2 data that's now out there in the hands of thieves. So if you haven't taken steps to, freeze or lock or whatever the tool is, your credit report, now would be a good time. We talked about the Experian breach and what happened there. There's things we need to be paying attention to in our own shop.
Oh yeah, and it was nice because one of my credit cards, it has the alert thing, and I got an alert. It turned out it was on my son's school loan because I got to co-sign that. But I got the alert. I could go and I could look and verify what it was.
Right. Yep, it's important stuff. So I hope that helps. That's really the high level analysis I have for today. Holly, do we have any questions?
Yes, one question came in. How often should we get a new debit card, credit card number from our bank?
Okay, so I've been asked this question before. Some people are in the practice of getting a new card or requesting a new card from their credit card company or their bank on some type of basis. So all of our cards have an expiration date. They're usually good for 2 or 3 years, usually. And then this practice is saying, every 6 months or once a year or whatever, I'm going to request a new card. It's actually not a bad practice. I wouldn't do it any more than annually if you're inclined to do that. And then also, if there's ever a breach suspected or some kind of thing with your bank or your credit card company, they're going to go ahead and send you a new card anyway with a new number. So that's something they're going to do immediately upon seeing something. But if you want to make it just a regular practice, I wouldn't do it any more than once a year.
Yeah, I've gotten those where the get a letter from the credit card company usually, and then a few days later a new card, which is
Right.
I appreciate that. Other than if it's one that has been sprinkled across the internet and I've used, but
Yeah.
I figure it out.
Yeah. And I've actually had that happen too, where the credit card companies I use have just out of the blue sent me a new card. And the reasoning was, there was a suspected breach or they saw a breach that may have included my data. They're always careful with the language that they use in the letter. But at the end of the day, it's a new card number. They saw something and they acted. If that doesn't happen, can you do it yourself? Absolutely, yes.
All right, Shawn, I got a question I got to ask.
All right.
Of the different methods, like Google Wallet, Android Pay, all of those, which ones do you use?
On the mobile side, I actually don't use any. I have looked at Venmo just for the ability to split bills for a restaurant bill, that kind of thing. But I haven't set it up. Frankly, when I need to send money to people, I do it through my bank. My bank has a couple different ways to send money that work really well. They can do it over text or email or an account-to-account transfer. And I'm just, that's my preference. I'm an Android user, so I have Google Wallet set up. I just don't use it.
Okay, I just, we want to know what the expert uses. And I've used Google Wallet now for probably since the last time we talked about this or before that. And, I've been very happy with that. We had one customer who had Apple Pay set up on his phone, and it may have been a security thing, but once you got access to his phone, he had it locked, but if you got access to his unlocked phone, there was not a secondary stop to use his Apple Pay. Where with Google Wallet, to get into Google Wallet, you've got to have that code. So there's two levels. Now, again, I don't use Apple Pay, so there may have been a setting that he had not turned on. I don't know.
And I believe I'm not an iPhone user, but I do believe current versions of Apple Pay can be set up to require secondary authentication, meaning if you get access to the phone, that's one thing, but then you have to authenticate again to use the app itself. And my Google Wallet's already set up that way.
As is mine.
But again, and that comes back to what we were saying earlier. If you don't have a PIN on your phone and you have these apps on your phone that are linked to your accounts, somebody gets access to your phone, they're having a field day.
Okay, we've got another question that just came in. I like this one because I have both of these. Is there a big difference in security with using a credit union versus a bank?
There was a time where the answer to that is yes. The answer these days is generically no. Regulatory requirements for credit unions and banks are very similar, if not in most cases the same, or in some cases more stringent, depending on the state you're in. But the requirements for security around the banking industry as a whole, whether it's a credit union or a bank, are very, very stringent. So either way, you're pretty well protected these days.
That's good because like I said, I do have both. So credit union and a bank account. So
Yep. Well, and think of it: Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Bank of the West, they've all had breaches. So they're not immune by any means.
Well, I don't know if you've had a chance since it is November 1st, but the security training program that we use, they have their new newsletter that comes out every the first of every month. And this month is on online shopping is the topic. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but we'll get that posted out at security.apu.edu so that you guys can download it. It's a PDF. The Ouch magazine or newsletter is always full of really good information and resources.
Yep, and we try to post that every month. So that will be actually happening this week.
Yeah, because today's the 1st, so
yeah.
I'm encouraging you, Shawn.
Yeah, I think I may be a month behind on that.
No other questions have popped up. Any last thoughts on this topic, Shawn?
No, just again, reminding our users and our viewers, security is on you at the end of the day. It's really your responsibility to take care of your stuff and and to know who has access to your information.
Okay, so I lied. There is one more question.
Okay.
It is the same person who's been asking all the questions. So last question. There has been a huge surge in online-only banking apps. What are your thoughts on those?
Online-only banking apps. Give me an example.
Do you have an example? Which will take him a second because there's like a 5-second delay. So.
Okay.
And dead air is never a good thing. So.
Okay. So online-only banking apps.
He's looking for one.
Okay. I'm curious to know what the use case is here.
Yeah, well, and I mean, there's so many. I laugh at how banks are always encouraging you to use your online, but then they continue to build new brick and mortar buildings.
Yeah,
so,
well, there's a need for both. If we're talking about just an online bank without a physical presence, I think at the end of the day, it's about the same because everything is internet connected. All of your data is stored online. You could be Amish and you will have an online presence somewhere. Your data is stored somewhere. So at the end of the day, there is no real escape from it.
Yeah, there's really no such thing as being off the grid anymore.
It's almost impossible. It's not impossible, but it is very, very improbable.
Well, this person can actually, probably walk to your office and ask you this question because he's not getting back to us yet, and there's been no other questions. So
we can certainly follow up on that offline.
Yeah. Chime is a good one. Have you heard of Chime?
I have not heard of Chime.
Okay, so we will check that out.
I guess another question would be, are they referring to an app like Mint, where it's basically financial management online?
Again, there'll be a 5-second or so delay before he gets that question. So with that, we can probably go ahead and sign off, and we'll put some notes on security.apu.edu from today's talk, especially as we get the more information about Chime, because other people may know about it and have be curious as well.
Yeah, we'll certainly check into that, and maybe we'll even do an episode on it.
You just never know. So again, it's all about being conscious of how your money, where's it going? Looking at the bank app, bank account statements, credit card statements, whether online or a physical piece of paper that comes to your house.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
All right. So we will see you next month. And if you've got questions about security, always feel free to email iso@apu.edu. Bye, Shawn.
All right. Have a good one, Holly.
All right.